And we're live.
And
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of SVT Time. I've lost track of what number this is, so just follow along and wherever you can follow along. It's SVT Time, whatever. But we have a very special pre-Thanksgiving SVT Time. Obviously, Dom is back from his hiatus from the last SVT Time. You're not looking all that much more tan than you
I know, man. It's like, going away. Come on. I'm like by the window, just trying to get some.
We want to welcome Harmoni Kelley. Harmoni, for joining us. This is awesome. We've been meaning to get you on and have you as a guest, so we finally got you on. And what better way to celebrate Thanksgiving than to have you?
I know.
Time.
I'm stoked to be here. I'm really glad that you asked me. And I honestly can't believe that Thanksgiving is this week. So I'm having a little bit of a like, what day is it? Oh, we're in November. Okay, we got it.
Right? I know. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, what's the saying? It's like this 365 days of March or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's crazy. But I see you're in your hoodie and your little beanie cap. So I suspect where you are in the Northeast, it's cold, because in Austin, Texas, it's like 78 degrees outside or something. So.
And Dom, how cold is it in Malibu right now?
It's a very brisk, chilly.
Yeah. Ooh.
If this wasn't a PG show, I'd be giving you the. Let's just to give you an idea.
Wait, is this a PG show? I didn't know that.
Well, I guess it is. I don't know, but we try not to swear on here anyway.
I was going to ask what the rules were.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, if something slips out, it slips out.
Yeah. You don't say that.
Yes, I have a heater always down here because I'm in my basement studio and it's like 32 degrees outside. It's just cold,
Wow.
It's welcome to New England.
Yeah.
It just makes you irritable. Like you're just outside angry at the world.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say, Dom? You think I'm irritable?
Guys.
Yeah, really. I think we got harmony between us here.
I'll keep you guys in line. Hey.
So, what have you been up to? What's like through all of this? I know obviously summertime is you're usually crazy on the road with touring with Kenny and whatnot. So, what have you been doing to keep busy through all this COVID stuff?
Well, we're all sort of pivoting and reinventing ourselves, I guess, during this whole time. But we were supposed to be on a tour from about April to the end of August. We were going to end at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, 2 nights there, and at the end of August, and none of that happened. So yeah, I've been luckily able to kind of still do some really, really small gigs, some outdoor gigs, because as I mentioned, it's like 80 degrees here. So it's like you can still play safe outdoor shows. And a lot of people have transitioned into, like, a lot of people are doing house concerts where people show up and you bring your chair and your blanket. You can socially distance and have a band play. So I've been doing that. And then I've been doing a little bit of session work, honestly, in the studio. And I mean, with a couple of people, and you can everybody comes in wearing masks and you can socially in their own space. And then I've been kind of teaching myself slowly Logic Pro, and which is something that I've been meaning to do for a long time, because I sort of progressed past the whole GarageBand days and I wanted to kind of move into the next level, but I wasn't quite ready for Pro Tools yet. So yeah, I've been kind of teaching myself Logic Pro, and then now I've done some remote session work stuff for bass and background vocals, and I'm sure you guys have heard of those websites, Sound Better and Air Gigs, and so I'm up on there, and so I've mostly through Sound Better, I've been getting some hit up for some bass gigs and background vocal gigs through that. So I've been doing that, and it kind of keeps evolving. But I'm grateful that work is there in some way, even though it's not the same as it used to be. Yeah. But we're all experiencing that, right? So yeah.
I've been bummed out a lot, and like with gigs and stuff, but I've never been like Foxborough Stadium taken out from under me, bummed out. Like that's a whole other realm of bummed out.
It's a bummer because that's like one of the, I mean, it's such a fun, I mean, obviously any football stadium show that we do is super fun, but that, I mean, the Kenny Chesney fans up in New England are like no other fans anywhere else. And I'm not just saying this because you're here, Dino, but I really do mean that. Like those fans up there in New England are like, they're wild. They love it. And they're just like wait all summer for those, you know, for that show. So, they party hard.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit.
You get so irritable in the cold the other parts of the year. You know?
Exactly.
Well, the thing, I mean, in fairness, you know, so just to give you a little background, you know, so Harmony would come to New England every August with Kenny, and end of August, like that is like the final hurrah of summer for us up here. It's like people are going back to work, kids are going back to school. It's like we're going out with a bang.
Yeah.
And of course, Kenny's, you know, he's gracious enough to do 2 shows at Gillette. And so it's like, all right, well, you probably see a lot of repeat offenders from the first show to the second show.
Oh yes. Then people save up all year to go to that, you know, and they take off work and so it's super fun, and I'm bummed that it didn't happen this year, but you know, what can you do? Everybody's I mean, that's the thing, like the really big shows and the really big tours are the ones that are really feeling the effect of COVID, because people, I mean, not the whole music industry, just the industry as a whole, but I do feel like, you know, the smaller acts are still kind of able to do something because it's just such a small scale, but you can't put 50,000 people in a football stadium right now, which is it's not good. So you know, you know, and you know, on that scale of things too, it's like, all right, so if my project band here in New England isn't working, you know, that's 4 musicians that aren't working per se. When Kenny's not touring, how many, you know, you're talking a couple hundred crew members. You know, so it's a much huger scale. It's awful. So it's been hard, but you know, I'm hoping that everybody has kind of been trying to find things to sort of keep them busy and keep a paycheck coming in, and you know. So.
Yeah. You had mentioned you're learning Pro Tools, so this is interesting because.
Well, Logic Pro actually.
Excuse me, Logic Pro.
Yeah. I'm like Pro Tools. Whoo.
Well, so when you had said that, so I was a Pro Tools user for years, and Dom was actually the one that convinced me to switch over to Logic Pro.
Really?
Yeah, because you know, with the whole Pro Tools and the subscription thing, it was like I was done with that whole thing.
Yeah.
And talking to Dom, he was like, "Oh man, I've been using Logic Pro, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's like don't worry about Pro Tools, because that's all I've been using now is Logic Pro. So you and I can both bug Dom.
Good. Now that I know both of y'all are using this.
I'll
text Dom at all hours of the night. Hey, dude, how do I unpackage this thing to get this file over?
What I love about Logic is like it's. Well, I love a lot of things about it, but I will sit down with producers, and I've been using Logic for years and years and years now, and then I'll see something that somebody else does in Logic. I'm like, wait a second, how did you do that? And then like it'll change my whole workflow, and then vice versa. I'll do something that I'm just like, I had no idea you could do that. And then the new Logic, I think it's 10.5.2 or something like that, is just really powerful. It does a lot of really great stuff. A lot of the features just keep getting easier to use. So. Yeah, highly recommend it.
And it seems like I'm with you. I don't like the subscription-based stuff either. So I'm like, I'll pay a fee to have it and to own it. And then, and it's great. And for the money, it's perfect. It's all I need. And I'm still learning. So.
Yeah. And it seems like, if I'm not mistaken here, and you can probably comment on this more than I can, but like songwriters in Nashville and like more and more songwriters use Logic Pro than they do anything else. That seems to be like the go-to DAW for a lot of songwriters and people doing stuff in their home studio.
Well, it's like super intuitive and user-friendly, which is good for me because I'm not, I don't myself to be a super technical computer pro. So anything that's user friendly is I'm all about it. So yeah.
Now, when you're recording, are you recording live? Like, are you recording with an amp in the room? Are you going direct into your DAW? What's your process?
So it's funny because I mean it's been a learning process, and I'm like, I play bass. I know what tone I like. I know what sound I like when I play live, right? You know, when I have a bass in hand with an amp, I know how to get the sound that I want. And so when I ventured into that world of recording at home, it was more of like, okay, wait, how do I achieve that? So luckily my brother, who lives here in town in Austin, he is a sound engineer. And he's been doing it for years, and he teaches up at the community college, and he's taught studio and live sound and all this stuff. So I immediately went to him and I was like, how do I do this? And so he kind of helped me set up my workflow, and he uses Pro Tools, but I mean, a lot of that stuff is kind of, but you know, it makes sense on both ends of it. So what I'm currently doing is I have a Neve DI. So I'm going direct into that. And then I have like a brick mic preamp, tube preamp. And then I've also got, I'm just kind of miking. I have this Shure SM7 that I'm miking my amp with, and then I'm using the cloud lifter and then going into the other channel of my interface. So I'm recording at the same time through a DI and through an amp, you know. So yeah. So that's been, and I'm like I said, I'm learning little things along the way, and yeah, there's so much to know.
There's no wrong answer. It's like,
I know. Well, it's crazy too, because you can, as you guys both probably know, you can really go down the wormhole on YouTube if you just go and like try to figure out how to do something on Logic Pro, and there's like a million different ways to do something, or a million different opinions. And then there's people that comment on that opinion with another opinion. I'm like, oh yeah. God. So, but I prefer, I mean, YouTube's great, but I prefer like talking to people. And so I have, along with my brother, I have a good guitar player friend that used to tour in an opening band with us, with Kenny, and he uses Logic a ton and Pro Tools, and he does a ton of home sessions and remote session work. And so I hit him up, I don't know, months ago, and said, can you kind of help me do this? And he was so awesome. And we got on like a screen share kind of thing so that we could open up Logic Pro, and he kind of walked me through what his process was for guitar and getting tracks to people, and what you ask for, and you know, how you deliver the best possible takes. Yeah, so it's just been, so I prefer talking to people in person or on the phone if I can, rather than like just randomly looking up something on YouTube. But I know that the resources are available to me.
Yeah, that's the problem, is sometimes you get on, you start going down that rabbit hole, and next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, are you kidding me?
Since I have like everything, because I just was like, well, yeah, might want that one preset, might want that one preset. Subscription there. It's like I have like cable TV for synths. It's like just everything's together.
My God.
Yeah, then of course, Dom introduced me to the world of plugins.
Oh my God, which is a whole other thing that I really haven't started to go. I mean, I can't even imagine. I would get lost in that rabbit hole for sure.
That's like when we start discussing what kind of tubes do you put in your SVT.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to go there. You know, I want to record a bass track and send somebody a WAV file.
And then you go back to like the Motown days, and they just like went straight into the
That's why I'm trying to not get too wacky wild with all this stuff, and just go, okay, I want to achieve this sound, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible, because but it's easy to go down that plug-in hole. So
so speaking of, are you doing any new projects, like anything that you're involved in that you want to talk about?
So I've been just kind of small local gigs, and there's this artist named Bonnie Bishop that I've been playing with probably for 6 6 years or something. Like before with Kenny, I was playing with her. And so whenever I have off time, you know, because it's pretty great actually touring with Kenny, aside from all the other awesome things. But we're done at the end of August, and then unless we have TV stuff or award shows, like we don't really pick back up until February usually. So even on a normal year, I would still have quite a bit of time to, you know, be able to explore different musical avenues with other artists. So so that was kind of the relationship that I had with Bonnie anyway. When we weren't on tour with Kenny, she would call and we would, like this past fall, we went to Europe. We were gone for almost a month, touring her new record, and, you know, East Coast, West Coast, and all that stuff. So I'm still doing that. You know, she's able to book some smaller outdoor shows and some outside house concert type stuff. So we're trying to still maintain that, but do it if it's possible, you know. So there's that, and then I have a little trio here in Austin with a couple of friends of mine, and we've been doing like live streams. We're trying to like once every 2 weeks to once a month, depending on, you know, people's availability and schedule. And so, and it's like me playing bass and singing, and then we have a jazz singer, and then a keyboard player, accordion player that I used to play with Bob Schneider. And so the three of us, it's kind of evolved into this thing where every show we'll pick a new theme, and then we'll, you know, learn 10 or 15 songs, and we'll each sing like 3 or 4 different songs. But it's done, like the first week we did like hair metal, I think. And so we did all these hair metal tunes, but it was done, we kind of revamped and rearranged them into completely different feels. Yeah. So it's been good. I mean,
Cool.
I feel like it's keeping us creative and it's keeping us involved and engaged. And then we have, so we do that. And we've got like a very, very, I say crew, but it's really like 2 people doing sound and video. And it's kind of, they're live streaming it, but it looks incredible. Like the show has actually evolved into this thing that looks really, really cool, and lighting and, you know, the steady cam stuff. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with like, they have a couple of really nice cameras, but then even just with an iPhone, like on a little gimbal, like it's amazing how good of a shot you can get with just an iPhone. So yeah, it's another one of those, we're trying to do what we can to stay active and stay creative, which I'm sure everybody's struggling with that right now, because it's so easy to just slip into like some weird depression because what's happening with music and where do we go from here, you know? So I'm trying to see the silver linings, because I think there are some within this whole thing. You know, if I can come out on the other end of this, having learned a new skill or gotten more comfortable with writing my own songs or gotten more comfortable with singing, you know, like then that's a win for me.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Taking hair metal power ballads and making an Americana album out of it is like,
ooh,
that would be incredible. I was just thinking about that. Like, I was just like, that would be, if you would just make all those choruses like just pop in that like Americana way.
I may have just sparked a new idea for you, Dom.
Yeah, exactly. You know, his producer mind.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
I love it.
You know, White Snake, but make it bluegrass. No.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, what's the bluegrass band that does AC/DC tunes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hasty Dixie.
Hasty Dixie. Yes.
Bluegrass version, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. I had a question. I had a question going too, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna forget it." Do you have what's the information for the live stream? Is it something that we can post here at some point, or?
Yeah, for sure. And the next one, we're doing like a holiday show. So we're each kind of picking some holiday tunes to do. So I was actually earlier today, I was like shuffling through a little list of some holiday tunes that I could potentially do. So, but I think it's that's the whole thing. This trio kind of started accidentally, you know, because my friend Sarah Sharp is a jazz singer here in Austin, and she was having these live streams with her jazz band out in her front yard. And then it kind of became unsafe to do so, and the band wasn't really comfortable with it. And so she still wanted to keep doing something. And so she called our friend Oliver to just come play piano with her. And I was coming over there for something else that day. And she said, why don't you bring a bass? And we'll just do a little gig and do a live stream. And I went, okay, cool. And then the three of us kind of, we started, our little musician minds started turning. And then, 3 months later, we're doing these little live stream shows. So I think for right now it's under her page, Sarah Sharp ATX. But I'll try to send you that when we go off so that you have it. But people keep asking us what the band name is, and we haven't come up with one because it was kind of accidental. So yeah, I know, and that is the hardest part, right? So
that's definitely the hardest part.
Yes, yeah. But
so do you? So this opens up another question that I've always singing bass players absolutely amaze me. I mean, just obviously my Sinatra voice isn't what it used to be, but
I beg to differ, man. I hear you every day on call.
I won't go into any. But is there anything that you do to prepare as a vocalist? Like, I mean, just and I kind of know the answer, but singing and playing at the same time, especially if it's not an easy song to sing.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do to prep yourself for that?
I have, for me, what works, and it may not work for everybody, but it's all like, much like playing the bass in general, or even playing drums, it's all muscle memory, right? So for me, it's like, I'm going to treat them both as separate entities instead of trying to learn them both at the same time, because I feel like I've tried that before and it drives me crazy. So I'm going to learn the bass part to a song and just know it really well. And then I'm going to put the bass down and I'm going to learn the harmony part, and then once I have them both down in their own respective stories, then I'll bring the two together. So that's the only thing that's ever worked for me, because it really is, like when you're singing harmony with somebody, singing harmony is already really hard. For like something, especially if it's a weird part, to like wrap your head around it and to like train your brain to know where to go. So to do that and then play something totally different than the rhythm that you're singing in is like, it is. It's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach or something. So,
well, that's exactly.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I feel like once you get it, it's like, you got it.
I was gonna say I have two questions. The first one is maybe me projecting, but I found like singing and playing. Like, do you find that there are actually physically certain like moves when you're playing that help you actually like hit the rhythm of singing here and there? But for me, there are certain things like the singing lead and playing that I like. If I'm up and moving, it's so much easier physically to like. It's almost like a dance kind of thing, but then like. If I'm sitting down and thinking about it, it's like, forget about it. So I was curious, like, there's something in because you're saying muscle memory, if that was something you've ever run into.
I haven't, but now I feel like I'm going to think about that, because it is. No, because I mean, I do like for these little trio live streams, like I've been sitting down and I haven't really thought about it. But again, I came to the table, I learned the vocal parts, but it's also singing lead. I almost feel like it's harder to sing harmony and play. I don't know why. I could be totally wrong there, but because it's like singing lead, it's like the dominant vocal part, so it's like less to think about in some ways. Whereas if you're singing harmony and you're trying to and it's also watching the singers, like how they change their phrasing, because it's never going to be the same, and so you're like listening and watching to the way they sing, so you can alter the way you sing and play bass at the same time. Whereas if it's you're singing lead, then you're calling the shot. So, but I never thought about the whole standing up thing being like a physical, like the physicality of that making certain things easier about singing lead. So I'm gonna have to, I mean, it makes sense though,
Yeah.
We're going to watch you on your next live stream. You're going to
I'll be standing up and be like,
Well, I find, with anything, like, if you're standing and playing, you're dancing.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I don't really trust a bass player that stands still.
I'm with you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some great bass players like
It's
John
true.
Entwistle,
That's true.
But no,
Yeah.
for the most part, it's like, I mean, that goes back to my old teachers used to say, during ensemble classes, if you were sitting down, they'd be like, stand up. If you don't have to sit, stand up and play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times producing too where I'll tell guys to stand up and play, especially on guitar solos. If the guy's sitting down, he's like concentrating. Like you don't get that energy of like some people and like doing your thing.
Yeah,
but
completely.
I guess Entwistle though, you would never question whether he was into it or not because his right hand was just too crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
I have a hard time not moving when I'm on stage. Just like I can't not move. It's almost like my entire body is keeping time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't even think about it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm like gyrating.
Hey, we have pictures,
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
I love what you said about keeping time because no matter what drummers ever say, we are the timekeepers.
I agree. I totally agree.
Scientifically correct, I think. I don't know. My other question was though, and this may be a segue, hopefully not too early, Dino, into what you want to talk about, but in terms of singing harmony and playing bass and stadium tours, like on those tours, what is your setup like? Are you a ratio from like in-ears to live rig? Like kind of what is that? Do you rely more on the in-ears or?
I would say, so when I first, currently I rely more on the in-ears. And when I first started, my mic was in a certain place and I moved around from that, but I would always come back to that spot and it ended up being too close to the drummer. And so they had me on a mic that had like a, oh God, of course I'm forgetting the name of it, but it would basically like, it would come on when I got super close to it so that it wouldn't be open the whole time because it was so close to the drums. And so then I had my cabinet, the fridge was like on it. They built like a sled. So it was underneath and like pointing up at me. And then at some point, like, I think it was 2 years in or something, it got to where I was moving around so much that I really had to sort of make it so that my mix was all that I needed. Because now I'm like hardly ever in one spot. And I really only run back up to my mic to just sing a part, because now I'm singing a couple of songs like down front, like they move a mic down front so that I'm singing kind of like a duet with him or something. And so it's interesting to see how the show has all evolved since I've been in the band even, but
that is really cool. I
rely on my in-ears a ton. And and our monitor engineer is awesome. And he, like when he's not with Kenny, he's working with Dolly Parton. So he's like one of the best of the best. But he does a really great job. And they have like audience mics out in the stadium too, so that it's like they're piping a little bit of that in. So it's not like we're in such a vacuum, and it just,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And I didn't realize that would ever be a thing because I've never been on a stage that big before. And honestly, before this gig, secret, I'd never worn in-ears before. So to me, I'm so used to like, a wedge in a club or whatever, standing next to, or sharing a wedge with somebody on stage and trying to sing and like standing next to the drummer and not being able to hear anything. So to me, it was like a world of difference just going to in-ears for the first time. And so I didn't even know. Yeah. Now I'm like, I can't imagine going back. Because I remember people would tell me like when I first got the gig that you're either going to, as a singing bass player, like you're either going to love ears or you're going to hate it. But I can't even imagine not having in-ears, so I love it. And maybe it has something to do with our monitor engineer is so great at what he does that my mix to me is like perfect and everybody's in their right place. And he's got everybody panned to exactly, if I were to close my eyes and listen to my in-ears, I could see where everybody was on stage, so it's awesome.
From now on, when I get flack from sound engineers about being more powerful than an 810 behind you is underneath you.
Like, yeah, I mean, I don't even wear a skirt on stage, but it's like blowing your skirt up, you know.
So I do have some pictures to share.
Oh my gosh.
So let me see if I can share my screen here. Hold on. I just thought, and I thought this was fascinating because at the time it was Terry, right? Your tech at the time, Terry?
Yeah.
So Terry showed me this picture. Let me just make sure I can share my screen here. Sharing screen is easier through monitors. Okay. Google Chrome would like to record this computer screen. Then deny, I guess. Maybe I'm not doing. All right.
While you're doing that, I want to congratulate Calvin. I'm seeing in our comments, Calvin is buying his or her first Ampeg BA, or first Ampeg period to be
Yeah.
Nice.
So
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Every time somebody gets their first Ampeg, an angel gets his wings.
I was just
her wings. It's a scientific fact. No.
Chrome has lost permission. For some reason it's not letting me share these pictures. That's a bummer because I had them all ready to go.
I'm so curious to what they are now.
Oh man.
I know the suspense.
It's killing me, man.
Right.
You put it on your phone and then just put your phone in front of
Oh, there you go.
You know what?
He's like, I'm doing it.
This is how high tech I am.
We spare no expense here at SVT Time.
I am going to take a picture of my monitor.
Oh, you're taking a picture. It's not even like the photo on your phone.
Yeah,
you're going to take a picture with the
I
phone.
know. Don't you have like
great.
Is it via email? Do you have like a? This is so good.
I don't know if you can see that or not.
Okay, I see the top of the 810. Yep.
So
okay, I can see that.
This is an 810 laying on its back, and it's facing up to the stage where Harmony stands on top of. So it's blowing right up at you.
Yeah.
But what I thought was like absolutely ingenious was, I think it was Terry that did this. He converted one of the feet cups in the top of the 810 to an input jack.
Oh,
because the jack of the cabinet is on the back of the cabinet. So
right.
That's obviously going to be an issue.
That's awesome.
So he did that, and then hang on, we're getting really high tech now.
Right now. So
yeah, Terry's a genius. He's like our tinkerer. You know, if you ever have anything that needs to be fixed, everybody always goes to Terry, and he'll usually be able to fix it or figure it out. So yes, that's the rack. Obviously, one is powering the 810 cab, and the other one's probably a backup, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But then the creme de la creme, speaking of in-ears.
This is making me miss touring, by the way.
It's making me miss seeing you on tour.
Oh.
I will say this. I gotta say, for anybody that's watching this, if you have not gone and seen a Kenny Chesney show, whether you're a huge fan or not a huge fan, it is an event. It's like Kenny just welcomes 50,000 of his closest friends into his living room and entertains them for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. That's the only way I can describe it. You feel such a connection to him and his band and I can't say enough about him. I am a Kenny Chesney fan. I love this.
When you guys, you and Rachel came out, was that your first time coming to a Kenny concert?
No, I think that was our second time, Harmony. The first year, it was Rach and I. We came out with my nephew and his girlfriend. You guys have been twice now. Yes. But before that first time, had you ever been to a Kenny concert before? It's funny because I have friends that like, hey, you should really come see the show. And they're like, I'm not really into country. I'm like, it's not really a country show.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you've seen it. It's like, it's ultimately a rock show, right? And we have this wall of guitar players that all come from the school of Van Halen. you know? So, and Kenny's such a great performer, and he knows how to like get the audience in his hand, and he's just such a gracious performer. And he makes you feel like he's there for you, you know? So I think that really resonates with people. So
and like you guys are on huge stages, football stadium size stages.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sit still.
No, he covers every square inch of that enormous stage. And the thrust, there's a T thrust that comes out like a little catwalk out into the audience, and he's going to run all around there too. It's like, that's one of the things when I got this gig that they told me, the band leader was like, you know, I know you're used to, you know, standing back by the drummer and just kind of being a supportive role, and you know, you're not going to be able to do that here. We're going to need you to run it. You know, you're wireless, and you've got to, like, he wants you out there, like running around and jumping off the drum riser, and you know, all the things. So now I'm super comfortable doing that. But my first year, I was like, ooh, it's like stepping off of my little platform, which is like my little world for the first time, was like jumping off a cliff. You know, like, oh God.
So that's your
list, and here's your workout list for the
yeah, exactly. Like,
so this here.
Oh yes.
That is a PF20 on top of a PF115, I believe, in an isolation.
In an ISO cab, yeah.
No way.
That's off to the side of the stage that I think feeds your in-ears and I think a channel of front of house.
Yeah, they got all kinds of stuff working, man.
Is that run in parallel with the SVT rig?
I believe so. And they every year I see, it seems like they change it up. You know, but yeah, it's awesome though. I mean, because ultimately it's about getting the best possible sound. So
yeah. So I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, and the last time you guys came through there, it was like,
oh my God,
literally within like a 3-hour radius, there was nothing else that anybody was talking about. It was
Pittsburgh.
Awesome.
Pittsburgh's one of those cities that, like, I never forget it. Like every time we go to Pittsburgh, you know, because we're at Heinz Field where the Steelers play, Heinz Stadium, and we would a lot of us would go out and go running out on the water and over the bridge and all this stuff. And when you come back in, it's like people tailgate on the water, you know, because there's all these boats that pull up, and they've all blasting their Kenny, and they've got their flags out. And like, I've never seen anything like it. The tailgating there is pretty crazy. So, and people get rowdy. Yep. I feel like Pittsburgh is the one place where people just are so excited to be there, and they start tailgating at like 10 or 11 in the morning, that there's like so many people, a good percentage of those people that never actually make it to the show, because they're just like partying so hard all day that they like pass out, and they're like, I mean, what a letdown though, you know, to wake up sober and go, did I miss the show?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny, man.
And that happens every game.
I bet. It's in their blood, man. They that's so funny.
Okay, Harmoni, I hope this doesn't embarrass you too much.
Ooh, oh gosh.
But no, it's actually a great photo of you, but it's actually 2 photos of you.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
This was at the last Gillette Stadium show.
That's right. Yes.
Somebody had handed Kenny a big picture. I call it the Harmoni head.
Yeah. Well, that's how you know you've made it. When you show up and you see like a 3-foot like cardboard cutout of your head in the audience. Like when you come out on stage. I mean, I almost like I had it like I did a double take because I didn't see it until I was out there. We were playing. And like my friend Deanna, who at the time was, she's one of the radio DJs for his Sirius XM station. She and I were buddies, and when we were on the road together, and she helped them get in because I guess they were having issues at the gate. Like the gate staff was like, we're not sure if we want to let you bring this thing in. So she went and got it from them and took it like in her little golf cart. She took it backstage and like was able to like, connect them with the cardboard cutout again. no anything. And so then I walked out on stage and I saw that, and then Kenny saw it and he like looked at it and looked at me and he just shook his head. So then he grabs it. I'm like, oh God, what are you doing with that? And he puts it on stage, like right in front of the drum riser. So every time there was like a shot up on the LED screen, yep, and my head was there. Even if I'm just like, oh my God, really?
Oh, yeah. That's like one shot that I have, but like, yeah, it was behind Kenny. So every time Kenny gets broadcasted on the jumbotron in the stadium, there's Harmony right behind him. Like, you got more screen time than Kenny did, I think.
Yeah, I did. And yeah, it was amazing. Oh my God! And it's like you're looking up at yourself, and your head is like 15 feet tall up on the jumbotron. It's like, oh my God, wow! But that's never happened before. I did. I actually took it, and I think it's still living in my wardrobe case or something. Because of course I brought it backstage with me and to the green room, and the guys in the band were just like, really? Like they're so over. Not really. They love me, but they're so over. They're like, oh my God, Harmony's so awesome. Because it's like, Kenny's never had a girl in the band before. And so all these people are like, whoa, what's this woman doing on stage playing bass? And I think all of his women fans just think it's like the neatest thing in the world, Yeah. So the band, and they've all been like, they've seen it. They've been in it since day one, and they've been, the ride to the top. So they've been in it for like 20 something years with him. So they're just like, nobody's ever made a cardboard cutout of my head. I'm like, sorry guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's too funny.
I got a few of Dino. We got to circulate around NAMM.
I was going to say, I would gladly show up with a cardboard cutout of Dino's head at NAMM. No problem.
Please don't. The last thing I need is this and getting any bit.
We've got a new Ampeg merch store.
Yeah. You can win a life-size cutout of me. God forbid.
So at least your face on a shirt or something, like.
Yeah, I don't
maybe an 8x10 grill. Picture his head just popping out.
That's great, actually. That's awesome.
Oh, man. That is too funny. Wow. Like I said, that this would not be a Harmony show if I didn't show that, because it was just like,
that's so funny.
That was so precious, man.
Oh my God.
So I love that pick guard. It's almost like the rising sun pick guard thing.
Yeah, I'm always like, it's funny because I just had a new pick guard. That's like the one thing that I always want to change up every year. Like if I'm digging the bass that I'm playing, I'm like, ooh, but I can change my pick guard. So this year I had actually gotten, I have this like olive kind of avocado color bass with a white pick guard, and I had just bought this like coral color, almost salmon color pick guard with like a pinup girl on it.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing, and I was so excited to have Terry put it on there, but we didn't get to her. So, but yeah, one of our audio techs bought that for me, who also plays bass. Because I told him I was like looking for new pick guards, and I think for my birthday, that was his birthday present to me. Was he bought that? Like I think it was called Big Top, because it looks like the top of a circus tent.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's a super cool pick guard. I always get comments on it. So.
That is cool. Now, prior to that bass, you were playing Music Man bongos that I remember asking you, like, who did the cool paint jobs?
Yeah, I've been all over the place with my bass stuff. But yeah, so I played bongos for a little bit, and Terry, who you mentioned, the aforementioned Terry, he came up with this idea that he put like the artwork from like the tour that year, which was up on like our big Austrian in front of the stage. Some of that artwork, he was able to get it and put it on like a wrap. And he wrapped my bass in some of the, like the first year, it was like peace signs and like some other really cool, it almost looked spray painted or something.
Yeah.
But it was just a wrap that you could peel off and kind of interchange. I'd never had that before. I was like,
that's cool.
Terry's full of good ideas.
I don't have a picture of it. I wish I had one. So
cool. What made you like go SVT VR route and just above a CL? Or I mean, sounds like now you have that and Portaflex together, which is really cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, honestly, it was just, to me, it was, I trust my ears, right? Like I was telling you guys before, I'm not like a super techie person when it comes to gear. Like my brother, who I mentioned before, like he takes apart amps and builds amps and solders cables and takes apart soundboards. Yeah. Like I don't know how I did not get that gene in our family. Like he did, I did not. But I trust my ears and I know what I like to hear. And So I think I was in San Diego actually, and I got in touch with Dino, and I went to, was it the SIR there, or I remember going somewhere there and was able to play through a few different rigs, and ultimately that was the one that I was like, wow, that sounds like the tone that I want to achieve. So yeah, and I mean it's a lot of stuff, right? It's like the way that I play. How, what bass I'm playing, what strings I'm playing, what pickups I'm using, how my fingers hit the strings, like all that stuff comes into play with my tone, because, you could plug into that same VR and it could sound different on whatever bass you're playing with your style. So it just ultimately for me, it just came to like what the way that I play and what I like to hear for me. So yeah. Cool. And I've been super happy with it. I mean, I've zero need to want to change anything, honestly. So
yeah, no, that's that, and I mean, let's face it, we all know if you pick up an instrument or you plug into an amp that's not 100% the way you want it to sound, you're going to adjust your technique and your playing to get that extra 15% or whatever the percentage is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're always changing the way you play an instrument to make it sound the way you want, even though it's not naturally sounding the way you actually want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think to some degree, like Ampeg kind of gets you closer to the ballpark than anyone else does, if to a certain degree. And then there's minor adjustments that you need to do to get that sound that you want.
100%. Yeah. For me, for the tone that I like, at least, but I've also never, even when I first started playing bass, like I never really jived with the, clicky clacky, high indie, trebly bass, of the early 90s or whenever that was like a thing. That wasn't ever my sound. So for me, Ampeg's always been like the go-to, whether it's in the studio. I mean, like I mentioned that before, every time I would go to the studio, every single time, there would always be a B15, and I'm like, okay, that there's a reason for that. And it always sounded amazing, so it's like from way back when I first started playing bass, that Ampeg was always the thing. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you called. Actually, it's funny, an interesting story. We were introduced by another mutual friend of ours from NAMM, Jessica.
Yes.
So Jess is the one that eventually introduced us and said, "You got to meet those with it," So thank you, Jessica. I don't know if it's or not, but yeah. So that's how this all.
So awesome. That's right. We all got connected. That's the cool thing about NAMM. It's like I was just amazed by how many, because I'd never really been before, and it was at the time, living in San Diego, and so it was a quick drive up there. Yep. But man, what a scene, and like just the friends that you make and the networking that you do. I'd never seen anything like it before, and then I went down to the deep dive into like looking at pedals, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta like. It was overwhelming, as you guys both know.
That downstairs area.
My God.
That's where you get lost. That's where all the cool gadgets are.
Right.
So awesome. That's great.
That's why they just keep me locked in the Ampeg booth. They don't.
That's a cool place to be.
there's much worse places I could be. But, no, if they let me out, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, Dino, we'll see you tomorrow morning because we know you're not coming back.
You're never going to come back. Oh my God. That's so great.
Yeah. So, you know, what do you think is going to happen in the future? Like, I know that's kind of a crystal ball question, but, you know, obviously, you know, I'm hoping and praying that this, you know, eventually this is going to come to an end. COVID, they'll find a cure, they'll find a vaccine, however you want to, you know, but eventually we're going to get back to touring. We're going to get back to live entertainment. It's probably not all going to come back 100% like at the flip of a switch, but what's your vision? Like, how do you see this happening?
I kind of thought of that too, that it would be sort of in phases, you know, kind of thing. And I think there's people that are afraid. They don't want to be the first ones out of the gate to go have a big tour, you know, for fear of, you know, liability. I mean, that's not a good look if you're the first big tour to come out of the gate and then suddenly there's, you know, 10,000 COVID cases, you know. So I think people are probably fearful, and then it takes a lot, right, to have a tour that big. So it takes so much momentum and so much back end production to get a tour of that scale off the ground. So you have to plan so far in advance. So I think there's just this, like, no one knows what's going to happen. So I think everybody's kind of afraid to forge ahead and with a tour plan. So I think it's going to be that. I think once the vaccines start to come out, and hopefully those are successful in March or April, then that will sort of be the first little lead in into like what the rest of next year is going to look like, and then on into 2022. Because I feel like earlier this year, was it Live Nation that said that they didn't believe any like large scale touring was going to happen until fall of 2021. Yeah. And at the time I was like, that's ridiculous. Right? I mean, it kind of makes sense with all the stuff that's going on. So, it's just amazing that this all started in March, you know, like this year, like there's just earlier this year, I was in Nashville and we were rehearsing, and then they went, nope, we're packing it up and going home. And then here we are still waiting.
You were right in the midst of rehearsals for the summer tour at that point.
Yeah. We were in that. We got to Nashville like late February, I guess, because he had a private show, which is super odd for us. So we got there early to rehearse just the band for that private show. And we went to Florida to play the private show. We came back like early March, the first week of March, and like production was set up, and the band, we were getting sounds, and then we were going to go over to this larger rehearsal complex to join forces with lights and video and, you know, everything. And then that's when it was like that week of March 13th, which was that Friday when, they were like, I think it was the NBA schedule, honestly, when the NBA canceled. I think that made it more of a reality for touring, maybe. I don't know. But I remember being surprised when the NBA canceled their schedule. I was like, oh, wow, their season.
Yeah. Because at that point, we did, you know, it was still new. Nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, they still had hopes for us that, you know, they sent everybody home, and then they thought, well, maybe we'll be able to reconvene in like June or July, you know, and we could maybe have some sort of abbreviated tour for like September or October or something like that. And then that quickly was like, we're not doing anything this year. So yeah. It's been an interesting year for everybody, but the music business is definitely taking a hit. So
you know, but like you said, and everybody that we've talked to that's come on the show, they've all said, you know, we're taking advantage of the time. We're taking advantage of this time. We're trying to make a positive out of such a bad, whether it's going back to school. I know our good friend Eva, you know, she was taking some courses, some music.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
You know, so it's like everybody's doing something constructive.
Yeah.
Something positive. You know, because like you say, I mean, when this all started to happen, you know, so many people could just kind of sit on their front porch and drink whiskey and smoke cigars, like, you know.
yeah.
But no, it really is. And, you know, if you think about it, you really want to get like philosophical about this. Like some of the best music that came out of the world, you know, was like the late 60s after such another terrible event, war and all the, you know, just that era of history. Think of all the great music that came out of that.
Yeah.
What happened? Who knows? You know, in the next 5 to 10 years, what kind of music and what we're going to see coming down the road with, you know, coming out of this. You know? Just trying to think of positives that will come out of this. Such a horrible thing.
I know. I feel like I do that daily. You know, like maybe there's a reason why this is all, you know, like it's forcing us to all go inward a little bit and spend time with ourselves and you know, learn new things. And I don't know. You have to. Yeah.
Yep.
So
you absolutely have to, because it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And if I know for the first couple of months, you know, I was watching the news and on Facebook, and it was like, oh my God, I gotta start doing this.
I did the same. I was first 2 months. I was like, oh God, like it was awful. And I remember just being so sad and just a feeling of like hopelessness. And I remember, speaking of Eva, she and I are on this base text thread with probably 25 people, mostly from LA. And it's like Justin Meldal Johnson and her and I and like all these heavy hitter session players from LA and me. And but no, I know. But it's been we had a Zoom call with a bunch of us like back in April or May maybe, and we all it was like an hour-long Zoom call, and we all just kind of check in, how's everybody doing, what's everybody doing, and somebody asked, is anybody feeling creative? And nobody said yes. Like everybody said no. Like I've got all the time in the world, I've got a studio full of pieces, I've got this, I've got that, and that. Like I just don't feel inspired and I don't feel creative. So I think that's changed a little bit, but I remember back then, you know, 4 or 5 months ago, people were not feeling inspired to do much. And I think it was just that, like accepting what was happening and dealing with that first wave of like, oh, wow, this is real. So, I
think survival mode was like up here, and now maybe hopefully it's
completely
like, some energy actually output.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Well, listen, one last question, then we got to let you go. So you're going to laugh. I know I asked you.
This is such a build-up. I'm so excited.
I know. I'm like, what's it going to be?
See, this is how you create tension and release. What is? I can't even get the question out now. What's a day in the life?
Oh, now I'm really nervous. Oh, a day in the life. Thank God. Okay.
What's a day in the life? How do you stay healthy? Obviously, you just talked about staying positive and staying creative.
The COVID, a day in the life during COVID for me is like, I go to this gym locally, and they were obviously closed for probably 4 or 5 months, and they just slowly started to reopen in like September, I want to say, or late August, September. So I go to the gym safely. Like imagine working out with like a face mask on, like a face shield, like the plastic little face shield thing. So it's very interesting. But so I'm in there probably like 5 days a week, you know, maybe 6. So I do that, or I'll go running out on the trail. And then like I've been doing some video editing again, which has been good. That's another one of those, like I have a degree in radio, television, film from UT. And I always thought maybe I'd move to LA and get involved in production. And then music took off. So now I'm at this place where I'm like, I actually really love to edit video. And so now I'm getting my Adobe Premiere chops up and working, doing new stuff like DaVinci Resolve, and it's just learning new skills. And I'm working on this documentary series here locally. I'm hosting that show. I'm like which is so for me to be like in front of the camera, but like as the interviewer, like it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So and it's like a COVID related documentary series. So yeah, I'm just it could be any number of things, and then like working on songs for my trio thing, working on Logic tracks on Logic Pro. I got cats during COVID, so that's a thing now. Yeah,
I got a dog, so it's
listen,
fine.
see, I mean, everybody's like, I'm gonna adopt an animal. Like, so I adopted 2 cats. They're insane. So that's been a treat. Yeah,
Cool.
it's every day is a little bit different, but yeah, try to not make it so that every day is more of the same.
Yeah.
It's like every day I'm like, I got to do something different, and I got to try to make it a little bit different than yesterday. So yeah.
Yep. No, that's what we wanted to hear. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool.
I'm so glad that you guys asked me to do this. This has been so fun. It almost seems like normal,
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's like I said. This is the thing, and I say this to everybody that comes on. It's like so many times, the few times that we get to talk in the course of the year. One of them obviously is NAMM.
Yeah.
And that's impossible. So that's what this is. It's basically we're catching up, conversing, giving people, Ampeg fans, some insight. We talked a little bit about Ampeg, but obviously, talked about your life and touring with Kenny, and it's just conversation.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. for our own selfish indulgence. Touch with one another.
It's nice because it almost like it's a little taste of real life. So, talking to other human beings, even through a webcam, across the US, but it still seems a little bit of normalcy. So it's good.
Yeah. And at some point, like I said, when this is all done and everybody's safe to hang out, we're going to have, and I know my boss is going to shoot me for saying this, but we're going to have a big artist party at Calabasas.
I love it.
Yes.
Yep.
So you're going to come out, everybody that's just the Ampeg family. We really want to have some sort of shindig.
I can't wait until that can be a thing, because I know it will be a thing again. So yeah. I'll be there.
I'll make sure I get video of it to send to you, Dino.
No, I don't think so. I will be there. Who do you think's paying for the whole thing?
All right, you guys heard it. Right.
I didn't say they were going to pay for it. I'm probably the one that's going to end up paying for it. You didn't hear that, Rach. So he's stomping on the floor right now saying, what do they hear about paying?
Like, I heard you.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, well, Harmony, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Can't wait to see you again in person, and hugs and kisses.
Me too.
All that. Dom, my partner in crime, thanks for hanging in here. This is Dom's first SVT time back. He was
awesome.
I got a dog and a wife in COVID. So
exactly,
yes!
You got a dog and a wife in COVID.
Congratulations!
Yeah. And we're on a honeymoon actually too. So
yeah, I was on my honeymoon, but we haven't had a wedding yet. So it was COVID.
COVID. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome.
Again, more positives out of a negative. So
right.
100%.
Well, everybody, thank you for watching. Tune in next time. I don't even know when the next SVT time is going to be, but just follow ampeg.com and we'll let you know. All right. So we'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.